This is the Footbrawl Podcast with your hosts, Tyler, Andy, and Boyer.
Welcome back to Mantasy Footbrawl Podcast, presented by your three performance-enhancing dads and Walker. What's happening, Walk?
What's up, guys? How you doing?
Good.
Pretty good.
We're here with a little playoffs this week. We brought Walker in because he's the number 4. The rest of us, all of the PEDs, made playoffs in this league, and then there's Walker. So,
Ty,
I think this is the first time the three of us have made playoffs together. I didn't vet that, but I think this is the first time that's happened.
You know, Ty, I've been listening to this new podcast for the last couple of years, and now I'm in playoffs. Just my second year of listening to the podcast. So,
That's right. These floating heads do something for you, huh?
Yeah.
So, all right, Andy, run us down last week, our predictions, kind of what led us to this spot, who's playing who in matchups, kind of run us down that, and then we'll jump into some true false.
All right. So we all picked Ty to beat Colin, clearly. That happened. We all picked me to beat Fryer. Sorry to disappoint. That did not happen. I was just resting up for playoffs. We all picked Duo to beat Jeremy. That happened. We all picked Walker to beat Charlie. Surprisingly, that didn't happen. Ty and I picked Chris to beat Paul. Boy, I'm not sure what you were thinking on that one. But Chris won. And then Boyer got one back on us because Ty and I didn't think you could do it, Boyer, but you managed to beat Robbie and secure the wild card. Welcome to playoffs. So 3 for each of us, leaving me 1 game ahead for the regular season pick'em title. 55 correct picks, 54 for Boyer, 50 for Ty.
Oof.
All right, I wasn't that far behind. I did almost pick Charlie last week when Boyer took Paul. I almost switched to Charlie just for shits and giggles because I wanted to be that 1 seed, but I didn't have the balls enough to do it because Walker's team's clearly better. But
I did it for just shits and giggles. I wanted to see chaos for Naked on like Monday night or something. It didn't happen, but it is what it is.
All right, let's jump into some true false. Andy, hit us.
All right, I got a lot, so buckle in. Tom Brady is top 3 in pass yards. True or false?
False.
False.
Yeah, it has to be false.
That, my friends, is true. He is number 3 in passing yards this season. It goes first overall, Patrick Mahomes, obviously. Second, Justin Herbert. Third, Tom Brady.
Really?
Matt Ryan was up there until he got benched for whatever reason. He was top 5 for a really long time before his benching. So I guess you can suck and still have yards.
Yeah, I would have had Burrow and Allen above him for sure,
Right,
but clearly that didn't happen.
They're 4 and 5, so you're not far off. But I mean, they've got the touchdowns. They both got 30 touchdowns, and Brady's only got 20. Brady is just a hair shy of. He's at 38.97.
Wow.
So he's 12 yards ahead of Joe Burrow.
Bears have never had a 4,000-yard passer, and Brady does it with his pants around his ankles. Jeez.
Isn't that crazy?
Right?
Must not
He's
be
not
that
even
hard.
good this year. All right, go ahead, Andy. Hit us with number 2.
All right, Geno Smith, top 5 in pass touchdowns. True or false?
I'm going to go true.
Yeah,
True.
I think true.
Really? All right. Well, congrats, fellas. You are correct. Geno's number 4 in passing touchdowns, behind Mahomes, Burrow, and Allen. Geno has 26 touchdowns.
They had no run game early. It was all through Geno in the air.
True, but Lockett's caught quite a few touchdowns. I've got DK, and I know he hasn't done that many. Who's catching them?
Will Disley had a touchdown every week for the first 5 or 6. That dude was killing it.
Yeah,
that's fair.
I don't know. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, he's number 4. All right, we're moving to running backs. Jerick McKinnon is 3rd in running back receiving yards. True or false?
True.
False on this one. I don't think so.
I think I'm going to go true, but if it is, it would have to be some monster games here, and which I know he's had. So which is why I'm going to say true. He's had some monster games recently, but he was also non-existent for like the first 6 or 7 games of the year. So
Right.
it would be impressive if he is. But I'm gonna go true.
It is false, but it's close. Eckler and McCaffrey are 1 and 2. They're
Right,
both
those
like
are the
200
two.
yards ahead, obviously.
Have to
And
be.
then you've got a little bunch here. Number 3, any guesses?
I was gonna say like Mostert or something. Like I don't.
I
Let's
would have
shoot
said
this down a
McKinnon.
bit. Well,
Fair.
I got that. Number 3, Alvin Kamara, 446. Jerick McKinnon, 429, and then Leonard Fournette at 410.
Okay.
All right.
So he's
Kamara
fourth.
should have been
Yeah, I didn't. Kamara's done nothing all year, so that's
Yeah, it's been a few weeks
surprising to me.
to, you know, be down for that.
All right, number 4, Kareem Hunt has more touchdowns this year than Alvin Kamara. True or false?
True. Total touchdowns?
Total receiving and
Total
rushing
Receiving and rushing?
and passing, but no, but none
Yeah.
of the running backs have a passing one.
I think false only because I think Kamara had like 4 games, whereas Hunt had like 3, and I think I saw someone drop him in my other league or something. Like he's been on the down and outs ever since Chubb kind of took over the position.
Kamara's only had 2 or 3 touchdowns all year, though. The guy's
Yeah,
not
but
scored.
Has
Kareem
Hunt had
Hunt
any
has
more
more?
than that? Maybe 2, 4. Like
Kareem
that's
Hunt
what
has more. True. I'm going to say true because Kamara's only had 2 or 3. I think he's not scored.
Yeah, I'm gonna go true. I know Hunt had a really good first game and he had a couple touchdowns in that game. And I know he hasn't done much since, but I'm gonna hope that he squeaked out a touchdown or so also a little early. So we'll go true.
All right, Alvin Kamara only has 3 touchdowns on the year. He has 1 rushing touchdown
That's
and
mind-boggling.
2 receiving
What a
touchdowns. Kareem Hunt has 4
more.
total touchdowns. He had 2 in that first week, like Boyer said, and he's sprinkled in a couple others. So they're both not super good.
They're terrible.
Yeah, but we didn't expect a whole lot out of Kareem Hunt. We expected a whole lot more out of Kamara.
A little
I
more.
mean, I
Yeah,
expect
but-
more than 4 touchdowns out of Kareem Hunt.
He was the
too.
vulture.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he was getting them
He was
last
He
year.
was getting 8 to 12 touchdowns next to Chubb for like the last 2 or 3 years. It feels like I might be wrong, but 4 definitely is light for him.
Sure.
All right. Deontay Johnson. Moving on to wide receivers. He is currently number 6 in wide receiver targets on the year. Giving you that for free.
All right.
He has 0 touchdowns. True or false?
True. Unless he got one in the last game that I wasn't paying attention to, but I think Najee and what's his face got him. I don't think he's got a single touchdown this year.
Jalen Warren got it last time.
Jalen Warren, that one.
But
And I've had him for a good portion of the year until I traded him. So yeah, I think I got to go true on this as well.
yeah, I'd agree.
I gave up on him long
You
ago.
should- as
As you should have. Good work.
It's like I can't. Targets are great, but oof.
Yeah, so 123 targets, only 77 receptions. That's a lot. That's a
That's
big
like
gap.
50 misses, oof.
Yeah, and 745 yards, no touchdowns.
I mean, you got to think about who he's throwing. Who's throwing to?
I also wonder
Right.
what his depth
Trubisky
to
and
target
Pickett,
is.
like, did he hit in his hands? I don't know, but
Yeah, I
He's
also wonder what
averaging slightly less than 10
Yeah.
yards per reception,
that's not
so
good.
not great.
That's not good.
But those targets are like 3 or 4 yards half the time. So
right.
there's no run after the catch type ability here.
Sounds to me like he's working real hard for those extra 5 yards every time.
Right.
All right, moving on. The man who was so hyped before the season,
George
Michael-
Pickens. George Pickens.
Michael
George Pickens.
Pittman,
Oh,
Ooh,
is currently
great.
5th in wide receiver receptions. True or false?
And receptions?
The fact that you're even throwing that number out means that he's way higher than I would have expected him to be. So I'm
Yeah,
going to say
it seems
false
like
just
big.
because of that.
Yeah. Maybe like 10th. Sorry for the train.
Yeah, I was with them on false, but I'm going to say true just to
Yeah, I'm
be
on false.
different.
Stir the pot.
Here's a stat line. Devontae Adams, 151 targets, 86 receptions, good for 5th in the league.
Jeez.
1275 receiving yards and 12 touchdowns with those 86 receptions. Michael Pittman, 30 fewer targets, the same 86 receptions, tied for 5th among wide receivers, only 815 yards, only 2 touchdowns. So
Wow.
460-yard difference, 10 touchdown
10
difference between him and Devontae Adams. Same number of catches.
That's a lot of fantasy points.
Yeah, that's like
Big fantasy points gap. It is 105-point fantasy gap between the two.
Oh my goodness.
Is that it? Oh,
It's Devontae Adams has more than double the fantasy points that Michael Pittman has,
that's nuts.
isn't it? All right, that was a fun one.
yeah.
All right, this one I am hoping is tricky. True or false? Tyler Lockett has more fantasy points than Christian Kirk.
Oh,
Oh,
Yeah, see, it was a tough one.
yeah, that's a.
I'm gonna
good. To
I'm gonna go with Lockett higher because Kirk had a couple bad games. A Jones been better.
But isn't he?
Lockett's been very consistent.
Lockett's been scoring a lot of touchdowns lately. He didn't score his first touchdown until week 5.
Right, but
Kirk was big early and hasn't
right.
been quite as exciting lately. So
Like in the standard league, yes, Lockett, but in a PPR league for sure. Kirk.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Lockett here.
I would say
because
even in a PPR league, I think Lockett's probably ahead of Kirk right now.
Right. He might.
Andy can give us targets and receptions and stuff here too, but
Right.
I think
Well,
Yeah.
I'm going to say Lockett's ahead of Kirk.
Yeah, I'm going to say Lockett because even those first 5 games, he was still getting a good amount of like underneath work and stuff to give him, a chance for points. So I'm going to go with Lockett.
I'll stick with him as well.
all right, Lockett is number 9 on the year. Christian Kirk, number 10.
Whew.
This is
Lockett-
stressful.
right?
That one.
And
Well,
Lockett
those-
does have 5 more receptions, so PPR wouldn't matter. Lockett'd still be ahead.
Okay, touche.
And those are 2 names that you're like, ugh.
All right, moving to tight end. And this
Oh,
one's fun
goody.
for me. Evan Ingram is tight end 5.
I literally was just looking at Evan Ingram stats
And
earlier
we were
too.
talking about it. I was talking about him in another week.
He had an enormous week 2 weeks ago.
Easy week.
And tight end's been pretty rough
So-
this year.
I want to know where Taysom Hill is still, just from
Still
that
second.
1 week.
Taysom Hill's still second.
Still
All right,
second from
so-
that 1 week.
Seriously? Oh.
But
I mean,
all
Taysom
right,
Hill
so-
has 9 touchdowns across all of the ways of getting a touchdown. So it wasn't
And-
just the 1 week.
I'll say, and 8 of them came in that 1 game.
Yeah, a third of them came in the one.
Yeah, you're welcome, Walker.
you said tight end 5, yes?
Evan Ingram, tight end 5, true or false?
I'm gonna say false.
I'm going
He's
to say
outside
true.
of it.
I think
Tight
it's
end has
true.
been
I
a
think
wasteland this year.
Climbed in this last week to be in the top 5.
Yeah, but you
I'm
got to
gonna say
look at
true.
Hawkinson wasn't good to start, but since he got traded, he had a couple good weeks. Kittle's had a couple good weeks coming back. Ingram's really only had 3 good weeks. Yeah, he had 26 points 2 weeks ago, an 11 and 8. But outside of that, he hasn't.
I mean, that's enough to push you up there. I mean, they're going to be bunched together. The guys I think that you're talking about are probably going to be bunched relatively close, but I'm going to go with true just because.
I'm gonna say false. Go on, Andy.
Evan Ingram is tight end 6. Ty is off on Hawkinson, though. Hawkinson's tight end 4, only 2 points behind Mark Andrews, and all of these numbers assume that you're giving Taysom Hill tight end 2, even though he plays some sort of running back
I mean,
combination.
Ty was off or him Ty's off.
You
I
were
don't know
saying
what
Hawkinson hasn't been good enough to be that high up, or was
no,
that
no, I was
Boyer?
saying. Oh yeah, I was saying Hawkinson and Kittle jumped since
Since then, I got you.
Right.
Okay.
Since recent.
Was Kittle then
Fair.
3? Is that what you're saying?
I
So
don't think Kittle's
tight end
Taysom.
rankings: Kelsey, Taysom Hill, Mark Andrews,
Oh, that's right.
Hawkinson, Kittle, and then Evan Ingram.
Mm.
So Hawkinson, Kittle, and Ingram are all the ones I was just talking about being in that 5 range. So
Yeah.
Andrews hasn't done shit.
That's what I told you too. I said they were all going to be bunched up.
Okay. all right,
Hawkinson
so-
has 100 targets.
All right, so hold on. Here's my next question then. Another guy that scored a touchdown last week as a tight end that scored a couple touchdowns recently. Andy, give us stats on this guy. Would be Johnson, Juwan.
Jawan Johnson's tight end
Johnson.
7, right behind Evan Ingram.
Okay, because
He's got
been
7
on fire.
touchdowns.
He's been on fire lately.
Yep, he's got 35 catches, 416 receiving yards. Garbage numbers through 14 games or whatever it's been. But he's got 7 touchdowns, and that's all it takes to be tight end 7 this year.
Right.
I feel
Well,
like,
that's
I feel like Ty looked at tight end rankings like yesterday or something.
I
So that was
looked at Evan,
impressive.
I looked at Kittle because Kittle's had good games. I looked at Evan Ingram because I was looking at players that I'm glad didn't, or teams that I'm glad didn't make the playoffs. And I saw a couple of his big games just kind of looking at them. So I looked at both of those 2 hours ago when I was just browsing teams, which definitely helped. I don't know what their point totals are, but I was looking at like their points per game in the last handful of weeks, which has helped me.
Fair enough. All right, last one. And this name didn't come up in all of those names we were just throwing out. Pat Fryermuth is top 5 in both tight end targets and tight end receptions. True or false?
I'm going to say false because he's probably outside of the top 5 in one of them, but he's probably close.
In the other 2 or the other one. Sorry. Yeah, I agree. False.
I agree. False.
He is number 5 in both.
Wow.
It helps that Taysom falls off on this stat, but even
Right.
still, he's got to jump a couple of guys. But the guys you are looking at here are, Jawan Johnson with his 7 touchdowns doesn't make the cut. So you've got Kelsey, Hawkinson, Andrews, Ingram, and Kittle is not. Kittle's only got 64 targets and 46 receptions,
Dang.
which is Fryermuth's got 82 targets. So that's a big jump there. Granted, I think Kittle missed a couple games, but still.
Right.
All right. Thanks for playing. I think I got some hard ones in there. So
You did good work.
You did stump me a few times. So I have to.
Made us think for sure.
Yeah, thank you.
So, all right. Hopefully you guys all enjoyed that. But now we're going to get off Walker's favorite segment. Glad he could play with us, but now we're going to hit my favorite segment. Wow. What you drinking? Andy.
I am drinking
Agua.
a Cabernet Sauvignon
Oh,
Ooh,
to
someone's fancy.
celebrate making the playoffs with 60 points this week. This is Rogue Admirals. It is a Cabernet Sauvignon from somewhere in North Australia. Katie's got a wine subscription freebie that
hey, that's nice.
brought a box of wine to our doorstep. So
Andy's fancy. Boyer, what do you got?
playoffs, baby.
All right. Got a Toasted Bach by Langkugel.
How's that one?
With a Bud Light as its wingman.
Bud Light Wingman.
Right.
Walker, did you grab anything before?
The
Ooh,
classic.
There you go.
Miller Light.
guys.
Sponsor's not going to like that.
Yeah, no, I'm
our
sorry, guys.
sponsors
I
absolutely
didn't
not like
tell me
that.
beforehand. I hated to switch beers, so I apologize.
I'm back to peach
Ooh.
whiskey on the rocks again. So
Attaboy.
I got to go out and buy beer for Christmas. So I'll probably get some sponsor beer in that situation. Hey, cheers to playoffs, fellas.
Cheers. Congrats,
cheers.
ladies.
Good work, boys.
I'd say good luck, but Walker earlier said I don't give you good
Bad
luck.
luck to all of
Suck.
you.
Good luck, Walker.
I have to say, it is fun that we got to all make the playoffs and then add Walker in for the podcast for it. Like that's
It is.
this is fun having everybody who's in be a part of it.
Yeah, and I went
Yeah,
back and looked, and I don't think that the 3 of us dads have made the playoffs all in the same year before. So
Wow.
And Boyer makes it a lot. He just can't win any games.
So yeah, no. My goal is not to win championships. It's just to make playoffs.
All I gotta say is I think Tyler's gonna win. So
That's a good
Nice.
bet.
Yeah,
team's
it's a
pretty
good
good.
bet. He's only projected for like 130 points every week.
Mahomes and
Hey,
Kelsey is a leg up.
Hold on. We were both named Tyler, so the joke went over your head. It was a nice dad
Gotcha.
joke, Walker. I got it. The other
Yeah.
one,
Other Tyler, yes.
Sorry, in this group of circles, like Tyler is not even in my brain as my name at this point. It really isn't. Like it's always been Boyer. It has been for like a decade and a half.
Playing that for so
At
long.
least.
decades and decades and decades.
Whenever we would all start hanging around, like Andy was coming around and stuff. Whenever someone would call me Tyler or call me Boyer, she'd be like, "That's not your name." I was like, "No, it's 100% my name. You need to get
like,
with that fact here."
It still works. It still works in the year, like still my name.
All right. On that note, good dad joke over their heads. It's fine. Let's move on to real quick constellation predictions. We're not gonna go through lineups, so you guys figure out your own lineups this week. We'll start with duo versus Chris. I will start, and I am taking the duo.
Duo's team has been real strong recently, so I'm going to go with the duo as well.
I did put in there pending Hurts because if Hurts doesn't play, it might change.
It's like
I'm assuming Hurts is probably going to play. If not, we'll see what his backup looks like. But pending Hurts, pending a new quarterback situation, I'm still going to take duo.
I'm going to go with Chris. Even if Hurts plays, I like Hurts a lot, and he's one of the players I'm glad it's not in the playoffs. But Chris's team's pretty well rounded. His receivers are studs. He's got 3 good running backs. I just like his team top to bottom to make sure that he doesn't screw the pooch, and that's where I'm going.
Yeah, I think I agree with Andy. After we just talked about how Pittman does a little less, but maybe they may not be doing as much, especially if now that they've lost JT. Kamara not as efficient as maybe we thought he would be. I think I lean Chris. He's a little more balanced team. Can go from there.
All right. So the next matchup is Fryer versus Robbie. I'm taking Robbie in this one. I think his running backs are just too good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Robbie's been strong all year. I'll go with Robbie.
You two lovebirds want to take the other side?
I'm going to go with Robbie as long as the moron starts Najee over fucking Knight this week. I could not believe that with
It's
playoffs on the line.
That's the one
that
thing
he
I
left
was
that
looking
in
at
there.
as well. Sorry, Fry Guy, but if he starts Najee, you got no chance.
Yeah, the Steelers are winning, and they're doing it by giving it to Najee. Just regardless of what his yards per carry is, they don't even care. They're just running them straight into whatever wall the defense has, and it's working for them. So
it stinks that you lost LJ, but why are you holding on to OBJ? Tell me that. Woo.
All right. So we're all taking Robbie in this one?
Yep. If Robbie sits Najee, though, I'm cheering hard for Fryer.
All right. There's your one lineup decision. Make the change. Otherwise, we'll have the fantasy gods on you.
It's not one that really should have to be made necessarily, and it shouldn't have been a thing last week. Pretty sure we were all pretty consistent that wasn't the right play. I'm shocked that it didn't get changed before the matchup started.
Wouldn't have mattered, but I am too.
All right. So with that, the four of us are in playoffs. Let's talk. Andy kind of hinted at he's happy that Jalen Hurts didn't make playoffs. But let's start with the teams that didn't make playoffs. Give me a team or two that you are happy are out of playoffs, and then we'll go to players.
I'll start with Duo. Duos has triple-digit scores in I think like 3 of the last 4 and 4 of the last 6, and one of the other ones he didn't do. I think he hit 95. So he's been really strong coming here at the end of the year, which is unfortunate that they didn't get into wild card, because I think they would have been a very dangerous team going into the playoffs and wild card here.
Andy or Walker have a different
I
team?
was gonna say for me it was gonna be Robbie. Mainly scared of those RBs. You know, generally has a high scoring team when they do well. And so for that reason, I thought maybe they could have, gone off at any moment. So
Yeah, I believe he's third or fourth highest scoring team in the league
Right.
overall, if I'm right.
he's up there, I think.
Yeah.
Andy, anybody different?
I'm going Chris, and that's not even to be different. I'm glad I don't have to see Diggs, Chase, Dalvin Cook, Jamal Williams. There's a lot of touchdown scores. That's a lot of explosive playmakers. And Cousins has been good this year. He doesn't have any primetime games left, so you don't have to worry about that. So I mean, top to bottom, Chris's team is good, and in any given week can be great. And I'm glad I don't have to see most of those guys in playoffs.
I mean, Cousins could be flexed into prime time, so that's there's still some worry there.
Not the way the Vikings are playing right now.
Maybe they're gonna flex the 35-point comebacks.
Come back, yeah, just re-air it on Monday Night Football next week.
So I had those same three teams pretty much in that order: Duo, Robbie, Chris. So I'm glad I did it that way, and it worked out nice. Pretty much for the same reasons you guys said. So I'm gonna throw a couple extra players. We talked about Duo with Hurts. Henry is the other one on Duo's team that I really didn't want to see in the playoffs because he can always go off. Robbie's running backs, like Walker said. So the two of the players that we didn't talk about on two different teams would be Justin Fields on Charlie's team. I'm glad he's not in. And then I'm on Ross St. Brown as my other one on Jeremy's team. He finishes the season with Carolina and Chicago, and Detroit's still in the playoff hunt, so he could be a solid wide receiver to end the season. He did it last year. He was a playoff champion last year. So that's kind of one of my sleepers. I'm glad didn't make the playoffs.
As far as like players, aside from some of the guys that Tyler mentioned, Justin Fields is definitely to me he's the number one because I mean that guy can get 40 points in any game. But to stick with the Bears, which is weird, but David Montgomery, not necessarily because he can just absolutely blow the top off, but for the most part, the Bears are the highest running team in the league, partially because of Fields, but they do run a lot with their running backs. And without Herbert, Montgomery has been excellent. And they don't have outside. The Bills this week could be a little rough for him, but I just think pure volume would be a player that I wouldn't necessarily want to see on the other side of my matchup, just because I know that that's probably a consistent 10 points with the potential for 20 or more. So that's my sleeper player. That's my sleeper player that I'm happy isn't somewhere on like a flex spot on one of your all's team because that would be scary.
Khalil Herbert did get designated to return. So maybe he's not playing this week, but he could play that next week, which could screw Montgomery in the playoff championship.
I don't think it happens. I mean, they're out of it. I think they probably shut him down as long as Montgomery is feeling healthy because they're not going to re-sign Montgomery and Herbert's the future. So I think it's more likely that they shut Herbert down.
That's fair. Andy or Walker have a extra surprise player. We talked about the Chase and the Diggs and the all those bigger names, but
yeah,
do you have any
really
sleepers?
hit a lot of mine. Derrick Henry is always bound to go off. Devontae Adams as well. I mean, those are guys on almost playoff teams. Scared me a lot. Jalen Hurts, of course, duo. But
yeah, the one that hasn't been mentioned yet that I'm real happy isn't in playoffs is Ramondre Stevenson. I think he's been steady. He's been getting it done all year, and I'm glad that Charlie took him down out of the playoffs for us.
Yeah, so he was one that I looked at, but I felt like he was more inconsistent than consistent. So and maybe it gets better as we go, but the last handful of weeks, I don't feel like he's had a couple strong games, but a couple mediocre games too.
Yeah,
so
he's been banged up a little bit.
Yeah, it's kind of in that in between. Like, am I scared? Am I not scared? Like, he could go off, but he could have nothing. So he was one of those guys I looked at. So. Good call.
I'm going to mention a player who's actually in playoffs, but because of the team he's on, I don't think that he's going to see the field. But Ty's team is so stacked that I'm happy that Christian Watson is on Ty's team. If he's on any of the playoffs team, I'm happy he's on Ty's team and has to fight off a bunch of other wide receivers because I think as far as just who would you start, are you going to start him versus some of these other studs? Probably not.
Yeah.
But if he did, he's gotten some massive games recently. So I don't know, Tyler, maybe he starts him, but for the most part, I think that there's a lot that Tyler is probably going to need happen to have to start Watson. And I think is that he's a explosive player on any given game, even if it's just a coin flip on whether it happens or not. So that's kind of
how
an
I feel
interesting one to
about,
feel.
DeAndre Hopkins.
Mhm.
After you lose Kyler Murray, it's you go from those targets to almost none.
Right, right.
On teams that we're glad aren't in playoffs, I would like to give an honorable mention to Boyer's team from 5 weeks ago. Real glad that team's not in playoffs.
Oh man, I'm
For
so
real.
upset.
Yeah.
You could. Can you
I'm
imagine if
still
Brees Hall
scared of
wasn't
it.
hurt either? I've had guys all stacked up. It would be stupid. And now
Hey,
I'm scraping the
Mike
bottom
Williams
of the barrel
back.
for depth.
All right. On that note, let's jump into that playoff bracket. We will start with Tyler versus Tyler. One of the Tylers
Who?
has to win. We'll pull that joke back in here for you guys that
Who?
missed it earlier.
I'm so confused. I thought the matchup was me and you, Ty. Who's this other Tyler?
All right. So me versus Boyer. Walker or Andy want to break that down since we are
Why
currently.
don't we split it? Walker,
Sure.
who you want? You want Ty or Boyer?
I'll take Boyer. You can take Ty.
All right, I'll kick us off here.
Thank you.
Ty is starting Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. With Jalen Hurts not being in playoffs, I'm going to go ahead and call that the number 1 quarterback and the number 1 tight end pretty comfortably with the way Josh Allen's been playing lately. So good luck, Boyer. That's a huge leg up. At running back, you've got Eckler, McCaffrey, locked in, top 3 guys at their position, absolute studs. At wide receiver, assuming he's healthy, T. Higgins, locked in. You're not getting him out as long as he's healthy and playing. These are all top players. Looking at roster decisions, you've got Keenan Allen against Indy, who does pretty well against the pass. And then you've got Donta Foreman against Detroit. Ty, I don't know if you watched this podcast or not, but Detroit's pretty good against the running backs lately. Robbie didn't listen to us when he played Zedalius Knight last week. So, listen up. Don't play Foreman this week. So that being the situation, I think you're probably going to want to get Singletary in against the Bears. And it's just a matter of whether or not you want to put in Ayuk or Watson over Keenan Allen. If I'm doing it, I'm going to put Ayuk in against Washington. But maybe I'm being cute.
So part of my concern about Singletary is Chicago's supposed to be -degree wind chill. We're supposed to have snow all weekend. So
they're going to pass it?
How good is footing going to look? I'm just nervous about that whole situation. And they play early on Saturday.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I did put Foreman in my flex intentionally to show that he was my lineup decision at this point. Watson against Miami, I'm not opposed to.
Yeah, Miami's defense isn't great. Like
they're pretty middle
they
of the road.
allow points. I mean,
yeah, they tend to be shootout games. Miami tends to be a shootout game. The only downfall is Rodgers came out and said, if you want to score touchdowns, you run the right routes. So I think he's already frustrated with Watson.
I mean, Watson has 7 touchdowns, so
Watson's right.
Dobbs also just came back. So, I mean, that could steal a little bit away from Watson because Dobbs was looking pretty good before he went out with a hamstring or ankle injury or whatever.
Did he play last week, Dobbs?
Yeah, he did. And Watson had 4.1 points or whatever. So I mean, there's something
Dubs
to
led
it.
the league in
But
targets, or led the team, I mean.
right, but Watson only needs a couple deep balls, and so catch him and make him work for it to be a big game for him.
Watson,
he's a little bit more like Lockett than what Ty would like, I think.
Watson did miss a deep. I don't know that it was missed. It was a misconnection on a deep ball. He had a slant that he almost took to the house late, and then he had a screen pass where he took off, and Rodgers wanted him to turn around and take the screen. So there were a couple of those misreads, and he was close to a touchdown on a couple. So, I don't think they're completely phase him out because Rodgers is mad at him right now, but it does make me slightly nervous because Roger came out and publicly yelled at him for being an idiot, not knowing the routes.
Yeah, so, I think in this particular game, Ty
did a block and got hit in the back, right?
No, he threw it behind him. It didn't even hit him because he went too far forward.
Just like,
I think in this matchup, Ty has enough firepower that he doesn't necessarily need to worry about getting those boom guys. And I think playing anybody else but Keenan, who's going to give you a solid 7 to 8 for sure, and then maybe get into double digits. That's probably all he really needs out of that spot with the other positions that he has. So,
fair point.
I mean, when we get to pick him, I'm still picking my team. But like when you look at it, honestly, Ty's team is better. And like when you're looking at what those matchup decisions are, it's like, do I need that boom guy? And I don't think that Ty is looking at needing that boom guy. He's looking for some consistency, and he'll get some boom plays out of the rest of his team. So,
is there any worry for the questionable tags on McCaffrey or Higgins? I mean, like, are we gonna?
I
hope so.
No, McCaffrey.
They both practiced limited today.
Just a limited practice to rest.
Listen, there's a couple
they're both
more
Saturday games, so Tuesday practice.
I wanted to be clear, like they do have questionable tags. If these things get worse, you never know.
So you get slapped with the questionable tag if you don't practice in full. And since there's so many games on Saturday with Sunday being Christmas, most of the teams are playing Saturday, which means practice starts on Tuesday instead of Wednesday this week. So being a short turnaround from this week's game, there's a lot of guys who just didn't practice in full because it was a day earlier than it normally is.
Yeah, but
Walker,
I'm
feeling the positive vibes here.
Right. Yeah.
All right, hey Walker, do me a favor. Do me a favor and just run us over to Boyer's team here.
All right, so run us down top to bottom. He's got Josh Allen in the QB slot, Tyreek Hill and Mike Williams in the wide receiver, Travis Etienne Jr., Aaron Jones in the running back, George Kittle, my friend, in the tight end, and then was it Paris Campbell in the wide receiver?
In the flex, yeah.
I had to guess his first name. Yeah. That's not good.
Ugh, it's not good. He was in the flex. We got Bass in Minnesota. Frankly, I do like maybe the number 2 quarterback, Josh Allen at the QB, and Kittle as well. Seems like lately he's been a top tight end. Same with Etienne. They've been coming in lately. Jacksonville, especially against my Cowboys, a brutal game to watch, frankly. But you have your stalwart in Tyreek Hill. Mike Williams is finally healthy, it seems.
Knock on wood, dude. Seriously. We're talking
Where
about
it's your team. Someone's going down this week.
Like, can you knock on wood or something for me? I mean, jeez.
I'm really just mad you don't have Herbert because it would have gone Herbert on your side, Allen on my side, Williams on your side, Eckler on my side. We could just play all of the guessing game of who's going to be good in the Chargers.
Yeah, well, right now that Miami game is fairly important for us here.
Right. I'm taking a look at the bench. It's almost looks like you're building for next year, right?
It's nobody.
You might be good enough as it is. I don't really see any changes that I would make. And so for that reason, I think I'd stick with it.
Hey, Boyer, just so you know, had you played the double tight end set last week, you would have had more points.
Yeah, I know. It's a weird position to be in to play a double tight end set and have that be my best option. And it's probably still my best option, which some changes are going to have to be made. Y'all made fun of me for buying Fab when I was in my buying spree, but now I have a bunch of Fab, so hopefully my bench can turn over a little bit and give me some options. But
you might.
Yeah, The bench looks ugly. It looks like Tyler Reed's team most other years when he's fighting injury reserve.
Say if you're not keeping somebody, let them go.
All right. I was waiting on Cup. The last thing I wanted to do was drop
Oh,
Cup and then him
absolutely.
say that he was going to play for like last couple games and somebody else snatch him up, and then I wasted all the money and stuff. They pretty much told us that he's going to shut down, so he's probably going to be a drop. But I feel like I had to keep him until I knew for like 100% sure, because it would look so embarrassing if I dropped him and somebody else snagged him.
Would have been nice. All right. Anyway, any lineup decisions on Boyer's side? Just leave it as it is. Hope for the best.
I think I would leave as it is, hope for the best. I mean, it still has a chance of going off. Like, don't get me wrong, Tyreek Hill could score 30 points. You know, Josh Allen, same as that. You know, Kittle's had his few games. I don't know that he's something that you can count on necessarily, but like, you know, you have Etienne and Jones who are solid generally. So I think you have the floor. You just kind of hope for, you know, Paris Campbell to go off. Same with Kittle, you know.
You just defined your whole 12 years of fantasy football. You got the floor.
He's got the floor.
He's got the floor.
It's funny because I had the ceiling through like 8 games, and then the ceiling just got cut off by a hurricane. The only thing that was left was the floor.
Not having Boyd, I mean, you could swap him in maybe. I mean, who do they play again? New England. That's not a great
ideal.
defense.
Not a great matchup,
frankly.
All right. So who's going to win this matchup? Let's just jump to that, and then we'll get off Boyer's shit bench.
Hey, don't talk to them like that. They know it already.
Maybe they'll take it with a little bit of anger and come out and play well this week.
I don't want my bench to play well. I want my starters to play well.
I got to stick with a favorite. I hate to say it, but sorry, Boyer. I'm going to go with the other tie.
Same.
Yeah. I'm trying to find a way to get Boyer in this in my head, just to see if I could talk myself into it. If Dylan sits and Aaron Jones has a huge game against the Dolphins, this gets a little bit closer. But it's a tough draw here, having to go up against Ty's juggernaut.
I think it's like pretty close, but I do think that Boyer, it's not going to work in your favor.
The path that my team took last week, which was a big game from Josh Allen, a good game from Jones, and a big game from Kittle, and then obviously Tyreek Hill does Tyreek Hill things. I'm pretty sure that pretty much has to happen from now on out every single time for me to win and get the amount of points that I'm going to need, or for Tyler's team to just inexplicably not put up points. I do like the Josh Allen matchup against Chicago. I'm not worried about the snow. He put 35 points up in similar or worse conditions last week. So that doesn't really bother me. And Chicago's an awful defense, especially against quarterbacks. And Seattle's been surprisingly good against quarterbacks, not allowing a lot of really big games. So, okay, hold on. Ty, let me bring up the stats. They've allowed 17, 16, 15, 33. So I'll give that to you. 9, 14, 17, 9, 19, 16, 20, 6, 11, and 16. Now, I'm not looking at all these guys being just like, the freaking Patrick Mahomes. I understand it's Patrick Mahomes. But there's a chance there that they are able to contain Mahomes. And that's all is a containment. I don't need them to stop him. I need them just to keep him at like 20 or 22 points.
No, I'm just enjoying listening to you talk your team up. Go ahead and say you're going to win.
Yeah, well, I'm going to win. Yeah, I've got to believe. I've got to believe in my own team.
Can we just go back and touch on the fact that Seattle's only allowed 2 quarterbacks to hit 20 points?
That was my points.
Derek Carr had 21, and the guy who had that 33 that Boyer just skimmed right past, Jared Goff.
You're saying maybe I should start Jared?
I'm just saying is that there's potential for Seattle to keep the door open for me. Not to say I'll walk through it. I could put up 60 points. But Seattle might keep the door open for me.
What was the Brock Purdy total?
16.5.
Oh, well, if he puts up 16.5, if Mahomes doesn't put up at least 24, I'm going to be pissed.
Just saying. It's happened. 20 plus has happened twice for Seattle. They've done decent. So
We haven't played
Alright.
that's
great
my hope. It's my
quarterbacks.
only. I'm grabbing a straw this year, Ty.
I
I'm
know
grabbing
you.
a
I know you
straw.
are. and I appreciate it. So, are you going to win?
Oh yeah, I said I have to believe in my team. I've picked
cool.
my team pretty much the last 3 weeks because I have to believe in them, and so far it's worked. Thanks to Fryer, and then to some big games against Robbie. So hopefully something magical happens because it's gonna take something magical to happen.
All right. So here's what I need. Warriors yet to win a playoff game. I need to keep it that way.
I've won third place games, just not the first round.
Okay. Warriors not won a playoff game that matters.
Yeah.
I believe we also established today, this might have just been on our podcast chat, that Ty's made playoffs 4 times.
No,
Or,
I've
I'm sorry,
made it
2.
twice.
This is his 3rd time, but both of the times that he's made it, he made it to the championship. So Ty's never lost a first round game.
Good
Boyer's
to
never
know.
won one.
Good to know.
And this is my 6th appearance in the playoffs, and I've never
All right.
gotten to the finals. So.
Let's script it. All right, so we're looking at a tighter matchup than anyone expected, and what it comes down to is a 55-yard field goal from Tyler Bass to put Boyer over.
and he drills it just 2 feet over the crossbar.
No,
Man.
it sails wide left in the wind of the fucking winter, like we told you.
And all the Bills players come out and dig a hole out for him to kick it out of. Yeah, that'd be fun too. I believe I saw that one out last week. I don't know. All right. Anyway, we're off my matchup. And I guess Boyer's matchup because he was.
I was like, your matchup.
I was gonna say it's like the.
Say we're all in matchups here today, Ty. That's
We're
why
all
we're
in
here,
matchups.
actually.
Hey Boyer. Now do me a favor and see if you know how this podcast thing works, and take me into whoever you want in the next matchup. There's only one other matchup, so if you can't find it,
Oh
I
man,
can't help you.
I'm searching here. Maybe I should just Google it and see if Google knows. But I'll take Walker's team here to start off with. Walker's got Daniel Jones. He's got Jay Jetta's AJ Brown, Pollard and Sanders at running back. Mark Andrews at tight ends. Zeke at the flex, and then he's got Maher and Dallas's defense going up against Philly. And
Can
then
we just talk about that game? Can we talk about that Dallas Philly game?
If that game goes low, Walker's fucked.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm noticing that all of my players are in the game, and I'm going.
Walker, you might want to diversify a little bit going into.
Yeah,
It's too late now.
for next year. Yeah,
It's a little too late, but you know.
he's got Hopkins and Hollywood on the bench with Perrine, Derek Carr, Cole Kmet, and DJ Shark. I mean, I don't see anywhere where you're probably putting any of those guys in at this point. So, I mean, Hopkins would have been a nice player to try and plug in. Maybe if you didn't think that, Zeke or Pollard, try and get one of those guys out just to keep it all out of Dallas. But at this point, I think you're at where you're at, and hopefully that game goes to 30 points or something for you, because you'll need some scores.
Except for you want AJ Brown to score without them scoring too much, because
Right.
defense is.
Well, and do I want Jalen Hurts to play or not? Like, who's going to throw to AJ Brown? And do I flip him out for Hopkins high targets? Like,
To be honest, I think it would
that's a good
probably be
point.
better to
Thank you.
just take out Dallas's defense entirely, so that way he doesn't have to worry about
could
it.
be it. My main concern, honestly, was QB. I know I've learned my lesson. I need a QB.
What?
You're
Yeah,
doing all right with that one.
Dan
I've
Jones.
done all right with that one. Sorry, Fred.
Hold on. You've held Dan Jones all year. At this point, you have to start Dan Jones.
I think I do, but Aaron Rodgers, who do they play this week? Is it Minnesota, or Detroit?
Miami.
Miami. Okay, that defense isn't great. I don't know. Even Derek Carr we talked about as being decent in the last week. I'm definitely in tinker mode on what to do with the QB.
If it were up to me, I would almost be pulling Brett Maher to diversify. Although he's one of the best kickers in the league.
No, I think you got to keep Maher in. He had 10 points last week. If worst case scenario they don't the offense flails, that he's going to score the points. So it's, I mean,
Right.
at that point, well, you got to
Just
get the
go
kicker
all in.
points. So like,
If Maher doesn't score, it probably means Pollard and Zeke have some
right,
touchdowns, and
that's
that's
what
okay.
I'm saying. A couple points here and there for XPs, but it's not going to count.
That's kind of where I'm at with the Bills having Bass out there, because like, well, if Josh Allen's not going to throw a touchdown, I might as well get 4 or 5 points out of Bass.
Right.
You know, like
So
all
I
right.
feel a little handcuffed like Boyer over here.
Well, Tua's on free agency now. I dropped him. So if you're looking for a serviceable backup, you could beat me with my guy, since I used Tua a fair number of times this
Good
year.
old,
That'd be
All right. I'm going to jump us over to Andy's side, running Herbert at quarterback, Metcalf and Juju Smith-Schuster at wide receiver. Hopefully running Nick Chubb at running back. Joe
Woo-hoo! Getting hot in here.
Joe Mixon at running back 2. Yeah, Pat Fryermuth, number 8 tight end on the year. Lots of targets and receptions. Terry McLaurin currently in the flex. Mr. Carlson and the Rams defense because they play Denver. So makes total sense. On his bench, Goddard coming back over Fryermuth, maybe.
Fryermuth laid an egg last game.
Yeah, but Vegas's defense isn't great.
Still laid an egg.
Andy, thoughts on Goddard versus Fryermuth?
I am going to stick with the Muth this week. The Raiders are middle of the road against tight ends. Dallas is
is a good
pretty
defense.
good against tight ends.
Especially against Dallas. I think their defense is good in pass coverage generally.
Yeah, they've only given up 1 touchdown to tight ends all year. That was week 8. Cole Kmet had 2 catches for 11 yards and a touchdown. That's the only one the whole season. They've faced Goddard in week 6. He had 2 catches for 22 yards. They've faced Hawkinson twice. Am I looking at the right team? Oh, because he changed teams. It's like, how the hell did they play Hawkinson twice? Because he was on Detroit and then he was on the Vikings.
Off to the Vikes, yeah.
Yeah, and he was under 5 points in both games. They did just give up 6 points to Evan Ingram, but like that is the most that they've given up to a tight end outside of Kmet's touchdown this year. Yeah, they're pretty stout against that tight end position. So Goddard coming off an injury, and not for nothing, if Goddard gets a touchdown, that means that AJ Brown didn't get the touchdown. It means Miles Sanders didn't get the touchdown. So it hurts Walker either way if Goddard gets something.
That touchdown.
So
yeah. No, I'm with you. I was leaning Fryermuth just for the sake of that injury Dallas situation, but wanted to see where you were at. Other than that, Terry McLaurin is going to probably stay in your flex. Michael Carter, Gibson, Lazard, all not great choices in my opinion. Anybody else have a different thought? We're leaving it as is.
I think I do.
Yeah, at the beginning of the year, we talked a lot about Andy's team and how we would rearrange it any given week. I feel like at this point it's kind of leveled off, where some of those guys is like, well, now these guys are kind of the obvious guys at this point. Whether that's because those guys are good or the guys now behind them are not doing so good. But I think he's sticking with what he's got. I think
Lazard was the only guy early, which helped.
And Gibson before St. Robinson came back.
Right. Mm-hmm. Michael Carter when Breece Hall went out before Zonovan Knight took over.
Yeah, and even then Michael Carter wasn't doing hardly anything. Right. So yeah, it's not ideal. If I was going to make a pivot, it would be to Lazard, but that's only because I feel like Miami's defense isn't very good, and that game could be a shootout. But Lazard's looking like the third option there. The first half of the season went real well for him, and now Rodgers is throwing to rookies for the first time in his entire fucking career. So
Watson and Dobbs have kind of figured out the route tree and where Rodgers generally wants them to be, although obviously sometimes they mess up. But like it's definitely been shifting over to the rookie wide receivers there. So that's a tough play, I think,
Yep.
at this point in the season.
Yep. So, all right. Well, it's about all the lineup decisions here. Boyer, you want to take us? Who's going to win this matchup first?
I mean, I think I'm gonna go with Walker here. Mostly because I mean, Mixon against New England doesn't feel good. Freiermuth doesn't feel good based on what he did last. McLaurin's up against a tough San Francisco defense. Some of these matchup starts aren't really great for Andy. Obviously, it's going to hinge a lot on the Dallas Philly game. But I do think that there's going to be some points there. I don't think this is going to be like a 10-7 type or 13-10 type game. I think it'll be 24-20 would be all that Walker really needs out of that game to make sure he comes out with enough points. And I think that probably happens. So I'm going to go with Walker.
You know what? I did pick Walker to win it all last week, but I'm actually going to switch my pick to Andy this week.
Ooh.
Tell us why, Ty.
So a lot of it, like Boyer was just talking about, hinges on Philly, Dallas, and both of those defenses are good. The quarterback situation, like, yeah, Minnesota's not great. So if you leave Dan Jones in, it should be fine. But Herbert should be better than Dan Jones.
That's true.
You say should, but I mean Herbert has been really up or down.
I said should. As long as Chubb plays, like I like the matchup against New Orleans. The mix in New England thing is rougher, but I think New England's good at shutting down the pass. I mean, they're great at shutting down the run too, but I think they're going to have to mixing in more this week between the pass game, between some shorter screens. So I think a lot of that game for Cincinnati will hinge on Mixon. And to be honest, part of me is picking Andy for the sake of Dallas Philly game.
Yeah,
if there's only 4 touchdowns in that game and they don't go to those 4 guys,
I'm in trouble.
It could be lower scoring.
To be fair, my team doesn't score touchdowns hardly.
Right.
Ever,
I understand that as well.
But yards, I mean, that's just enough.
I mean, Walker does have Jefferson, which does give him a lot of help as far as it's like, oh man, like if this Dallas Eagles game goes completely south, he's screwed. But if it goes like just a little bit below average, and Jefferson can easily pull him out with a big game. So I'm not saying it completely depends on that, but Jefferson helps Walker's team a lot here, just having that stud to help anchor the team.
Agreed. I just looking at the matchup and how they all play the same game just makes me nervous.
Way too soon.
I'm expecting both of you are going to be just eyes glued to that game, yelling at literally every player on the screen.
Andy doesn't watch games; it stresses him out. He will
not in playoffs. Yeah, for sure, not in playoffs.
Not in playoffs. Yeah.
I've gotten away from doing it most of the time, but for sure not in playoffs will I be watching any football this weekend.
So, all right, Andy or Walker, want to pick a winner here? I imagine you'll both pick your sides, but Andy might actually
I gotta pick myself. Side. I mean, I'm a Cowboys fan. I got a lot of rocking on this. So I know with Jalen Hurts.
Whoa, you're a Cowboys fan?
Oh, you couldn't tell.
No, I had no idea.
You guys know which game has a higher over/under than the Cowboys Eagles?
Ooh.
The Chargers game.
Ooh.
So I'm hoping that Justin Herbert
on the Chargers game to hedge my sorrows is what
brings it home for me on Monday night.
And you know what's super fun is me and Boyer are super invested in that Chargers game too.
Which is Monday night, which is gonna be great.
That's what I was gonna say. Is you both have 2 guys going Monday night, so you won't even decide until the very end.
I think Boyer only.
Meanwhile,
I'll say unless Ty already has 70 points on me, and then we won't care.
That is a fair point.
All right, hey. back to focusing here on who's going to win. We got everybody locked in. Andy, you're taking yourself.
Myself.
I'm going with me. I don't feel good about it. I still like my team. Like, obviously my team is not as good as Ty's team and Walker's team, but I don't know. I feel like they're due, right? Like, everybody's been bad. I've been doing so bad. They have not scored touchdowns in at least a month. Like, I just need 2 or 3 touchdowns and I'll be fine. I might not win, but like 2 or 3 touchdowns and I'll be fine. Last week I had 0 touchdowns and you can't do shit with that.
And Andy Mixon used all of his fantasy football juju in that 150-point week.
I fucking needed it to get here, so.
No, I'll be happy if I break 100, frankly. After last week, I was a little
Me
concerned
too.
I might be on the down and out. And so
I'd like just to be respectable at 95 to Ty's 140, so I could say at least tried.
Yeah, I just hope it's close. I hope these are some good games that we can all be sweating it out on Monday night and enjoy it and not be like, oh, well, it's 3 o'clock on Saturday. This is done.
Right. Agreed. Nothing like a good stressful Christmas. Stressful Christmas. So, all right. Well, with that, Walker, appreciate you jumping on. You other 2 goons, thanks for joining. Boyer, you suck this week. The other matchup, I don't really care. Have a good matchup, do your thing. I don't care. Enjoy Christmas, enjoy football. We'll see you guys next week. We're out.